we're digging into the research that we did with the Betting Hero team last year. And earlier this year, we kicked things off by diving into what players actually think when we ask them how they bet, how they budget, where the payment experience is letting them down. And that first session was really all about listening. We heard loud and clear what the players want from the payment side of their betting experience. They want more control, they want less friction, they want tools that support how they really play and tools that work. And today, Andrea, our group CEO, and I are going to show you what we did with that feedback. So this conversation is really about how we took the insights and we used them to shape our wallet for the US market, but also and beyond. It's a product that we're excited about that we'll be launching in other countries as well as the US. And this really wasn't just about tweaking features, but how we rethink or rethought the wallet experience, excuse me, around both the player and the operator to create something that provides compelling solutions for both. So before we get into it, I will say if you have any questions, please just drop them in the chat and we will try and get to them. But Andrea, hello.
Hello.
Obviously, you and I are known to be able to chat extensively about most things.
And to our American colleagues, they know us as the pink hair and the curly hair. So here we are on a webinar. So
exactly.
Hello to our American friends, yeah.
True to type. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. To kick things off, why don't we start with what made us stop and think about, when we got this research, what was the thing that kind of stopped us in our tracks and said, okay, we need to do things a bit differently, not just for the US market, but for the sports betting market in general.
Yeah. So, I mean, from my side, we were already beginning to I get on a pedestal and talk about all payments companies have a responsibility in the RG and safer gaming, no matter what the country. Starts with a deposit, and we have a responsibility and accountability for it. But the research that we decided to fund and get and understand clearly told us even more and told us things that we thought, but we weren't completely convinced that you build a product on it. But you can see the weight of what we learned that said, well, hold on a second, this market's underserved. Nobody's doing the right thing. We could have just sent out our standard wallet that we've got anywhere else in the world, but that's not the right thing to do. So we took a back step and used this research to fully understand what we could do, both with the passion for the payments companies to be part of RG, responsible gaming, safer gaming, but actually it's to do with what the players really need that will make that work. Because we can say it all we like, it is about how they want to operate. And so it actually has turned out to be something that's quite exciting. It's because oh my gosh, look at this. It's a purpose-built thing. I'm taking some things away from it. And I think there's virtually everybody in our business. If anybody hasn't figured that out in our business, they must be very new, because we're all talking about it. And it's appropriate. It will still evolve. It will still learn. We're not going to stop there and just let it be. But it's the very fact that it brings in, where I was very much about us to the operator and support, it actually brings in that player experience, which will enhance and engage that operator support. So I think that's just the biggest addition. I'll let you talk about it. You were there, you did it.
I think one of the most striking things for me was the budgeting side.
Yeah.
And obviously, we led with RG. We wanted to learn from the players. Was responsible gaming important? How did they view it? Were they using the tools? What did they think about the tools? And the resounding response that we got was that, responsible gaming is about me not spending the money I should be spending on bills. That I want a budgeting tool. It's about my budget. And so that was sort of like a penny dropping for me, to, okay, I understand that now in terms of how these players are thinking about their budget or their overall expense, and they are playing based on their budget. Right? One of the facts that we talked about in the previous webinar, that only 18% are actually betting or wagering based on a promotional activity. 36% are basing it on their budget. And so I think that that initial conversation that was exciting to me was that when I came to you and said, okay, well, what do we do with this? And we had these tools that were already built into our existing wallet, but we weren't leveraging them in the same way. It's not wrong, it's just different, right?
Well, to be honest, we were using these kind of tools from a pure, regulatory, that's what we have to do part, right? And it's like, okay, let's turn that on its head. And can we use that on how a player would want to do it? So we had the configurations. That's a useful terminology. We had the configurations. Can we turn the table of how they operate and who configures it? And I'd love to say that was a simple task. It was a very simple thought, and it was a very simple idea. But as anybody of any tech background would know, nothing is simple, and you had to just make sure it's a different way. But the tools were there, the tech was there. It was the user experience and turning it upside down, and that was quite a very useful and interesting conversations.
Right.
Pulling your
And I
hair out
think
type of conversations because you couldn't get it right at the beginning. But now we have. Now we have.
right. But I think it was interesting when you say the tools were built from a configuration and a regulatory standpoint.
Yeah.
And really to your point earlier that it was more about coming from the operator rather from a player need. And so when we looked at that and you know, we asked these players, you know, how are you handling your money? And you know, would you be interested in having a single point of deposit or just a wallet that you could cover all of your sports betting needs? And resoundingly, I mean, I think it was like over 57% of them said that they wanted to manage all of their sports betting accounts from one wallet.
Yeah, and I have to say that didn't surprise me. Not that I thought about it in advance, but it's that concept of ownership. Because this is me wanting to put my bet on, and I want to see where my bet's going, and if I've got my money on, I want to have my money back in, and this is my environment. I don't want to go and scroll down my bank or my other wallets that are generic. Having something that's in this, because this is my entertainment, my hobby, my desire of what I want to do. And having that specific is absolutely spot on. It has to also speak the language and stuff, but I think that whole concept that was so resounding in that research and your focus groups and everything backed it all up is now on it mine. I want to own that and know what it is I've got, and then I'll do what I want to do. And I think
And then
that's
and
brilliant.
a really important piece is that we know that the players are averaging, you know, they're using 3 or 4 apps.
Yeah.
They're not just using one. And therefore what they're seeing and the friction points, more frictioner. The
Is
high
that what,
fric
I don't know if that word exists, but okay. I understood it.
the high friction areas or the elements that cause most friction and pain points for the player is that there are all of these different limits, different experiences. So I'm trying, you know, I've loaded one card onto, you know, operator A, but now it's been declined on operator B. Right. And I'm
Yeah.
immediately, my perception is that's the operator's problem. It's nothing to do with them. I don't see it as a bank issue. I see it as the operator issue. I have a different experience when I want to withdraw. I'm asking for a payout, and you know, one operator's asking is letting me pay, you know, letting me take $200. Another one is asking me to go through KYC. I'm having to jump through various different hoops, and there's no standardization around it, and therefore my frustration levels are really high.
Yeah, you know, the multiple steps, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. From asking the operator to do, I have to take KYC of you. I have to check your limits with you. I have to do this with you. Every single operator is doing the right thing. And when I come back in about the payments companies can support this industry, if you want to be in this industry and get the benefits of the growth of this industry, and in the US, that's no small fry, right? Play the game, be part of the ecosystem. We can help in that. And it's because there is an ability to support things like financial crime and AML and sharing KYC or due diligence or credentials, whatever name you want to call it. But there's also this whole piece about bringing the player into their betting wallet and knowing this is where everything is, and then the operator having whatever we're able to share information with them makes it quite seamless between everybody. Because if they want to just, I want to load my card into here, I want to spend on this, but I'm actually going to put a little bit on that. And next time, actually, the odds are better here. I'm going to go and play on that. And we all know people do that, but they still have their favorites. But they can do that within the wallet. And they're not having to go jump in, out in different places, putting different details in on a constant basis. And I'm not a major gambler, but I do bet on things like football. I might not after England's desire to lose last night again, but that won't go anywhere with the American audience or soccer.
Yeah, and we're talking about soccer, not throw ball.
Yeah, right. Anyhow, the concept is you when you want to do this, you want to do it now. And the operators bring in so many smart tools, brilliant user experience, and those steps just get in the way. So if we can help while still keeping the safer gambling piece, that was a big thing for us in the development of this wallet. And again, it was some of them were new features, but most of it was, but this is how we do this. How can we apply that to the player being in control of that? How can we have that information shared with the operator? So it has got player and operator at the heart of both sides of this wallet.
So let's focus on the operator side.
Yeah.
And where we start to bring in and we start to talk about compliance handshake. Because this is part of the suite of products. So we're talking about the wallet and wager wallet, which is the consumer facing piece, and obviously we're very excited about, but compliance handshake is really sort of existing technology that sits in the background. And I think this is a real strength where we can partner with the operators. And so can we dig in a bit to how are we helping the operator?
Well, can I tell a little story to bring it to the fore? So I spoke to a money laundering officer once. I didn't personally do that. One of my colleagues did. And what came out of that was, yeah. But, we have to, digital wallets, we have to watch and we need to de-risk it. We need to do this, etc. So, but you have a KYC handshake. We share this information. We share this data with you. He said, I had no idea. So we had the best kept secret in the world. We had things in our API, but we weren't really presenting that information. So that particular money laundering reporting officer helped us create what is now called the compliance handshake. And it's a bundle of services that we already have. It's not our product. It's something that we have behind the scenes. And there's different things. We can share in real time information about the player if it's an appropriate thing to do. Sometimes operators will use it to literally handshake, is it the same person? Because there's a whole load side of that. If there's a limit, self-limit that they've put in within our wallet, that goes across wherever I'm going to spend, by the way. So if I've got 3 operators I tend to use, I'm setting my limit as my budget, and that information will be shared with an operator. And if I'm halfway through it and I go to this other operator, it's that limit is the players.
My budget is my budget, my sports betting budget, not just a single operator budget. I want to go back to where the operator can or chooses to share data with us and apply that to, I think specifically
the one coming back.
Exactly. I think specifically around payouts, right? Where we're learning the research, that's the key friction point is withdrawals, right? They're not fast enough. There's all of these barriers that are put in place. If we can then take that KYC handshake.
Yeah. So you've banged on about this so much. It's not just the research, it's been you banging on about it, but you're right, by the way, because you were at that research. And I've sat in listening to operators talk about this as well. There's the cost piece, there's the friction of the process, it's the how does that all work inside of it. So we took our KYC handshake that we pass across to an operator at the beginning of a transaction and turned it on its head and allow a KYC handshake the other way. But we do it because of a payout. So payouts are easy to actually operate. We've got a commercial model that we think is different to anybody else, and won't put that out here on the webinar, but encourage people to talk
but come and talk to us.
Yeah, okay. Talk to Sue. But there's a whole process of that. But what really excites me is the KYC handshake is you, the operator, can share information with us. The player has to say yes, of course, okay, because it's sharing of data and there's all privacy policies, etc. But it's working and it is useful in the fact that it takes away a friction. Then what happens is they might take their winnings into the wallet. We all know that some of that money goes back in. Some of that money I want to withdraw. And I'll make my decision because I've got my betting wallet side of it. So taking the KYC handshake takes away speed. From a cost point of view and commercials, I'll just say that it's a positive to you operators, not a negative to you operators, is the best way to put it. And then there's data of where I've spent it.
Right.
I cannot tell you, Mr. Operator, they spent it on this competitor. I can't do that. But I can tell aggregate data of what people do with their payouts. Because every time I sit and listen to this frustration and hurt, it is. I listen to people saying, well, we're going to charge interest. It's the only way we can give them interest. They're not charged, give interest. I've got to do something to help keep the money going. And it's like, don't get so hurt. We can have this whole ability. So listen, let them have their money. When it gets in a wallet, they feel as if they've got it themselves because it's their wallet. They might withdraw and go and buy a pair of shoes or something, or go for a meal, or they'll put money back in. And when they do, we can aggregate data and start to talk about behavior and start to understand that behavior. And we are all about, in the whole process of what we're doing, sharing data. So whatever data we can share, we will share. But we go a little bit beyond that in that there are some operators that can ask for bespoke reporting. And if any of my decision science colleagues are listening into this, hopefully you're still aware of that, but that we can go beyond of looking into some.
I'd also just translate that as bespoke equals custom.
You're translating my English. It's July the 4th. Yeah, does bespoke not work in America? Okay. Who knew? Yeah, for you specific. So there's behavior of the player within the money coming back out and what they do with that. There's the self limits that go across all the operators. There's the behavior of how they bet and the difference between deposit, spend, money coming back out, timing, etc. This information in its raw manner, you think, oh yeah, that's interesting, but it's not just interesting. It can help us build to get better. And that's not just shoving. What's American for shoving?
I think that works
Shoving,
both sides of the Atlantic.
shoving rules at the players. And I'm based here in Europe, and shoving rules on are, as we all know, both sides of the Atlantic is not the best way of doing it. And that's where we think it's even more important. We're a payments company, so as you know, that's what our product does. We know what we can do, but you've got to be more than that. You've got to step up. We've got so much that we can be part of the whole ecosystem. And
Right.
by taking this wallet, knowing it's bespoke within, sorry, what's the word? Unique?
Custom.
Custom. I'll get there. Custom within the sector, and that the data is there, starts to become far more important.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what I mean.
It's not just throwing the data, Sue. It's making sure it's in an appropriate manner for people to use.
And that's really, from a Neosurf perspective, we're not a huge company, but we've been in this industry for, we're over 20 years old, but we've been in this industry. We know sports betting. We did the research here because we wanted to understand the US market. I think that gives us a strength where we're able to create something specific for the sports bettor and specific for the sports betting operators. So we're really niching down and this. We know that the operators probably if it's not their biggest challenge, it's right up there in the top three, is keeping the money on the platform. Because the player behavior is it's the land-based casino. I've won, I want my winnings. I'm going to put it back in. Most likely, I think the numbers are something like 65% goes straight back in.
But
From
now
our
you'll see it.
research,
Now you'll see
yeah,
it. Yeah.
right, exactly. To your point, you'll see it. But so our research said at least 55% are withdrawing from the operator every other week. Something like 25 to 30% are doing it every week. So this sheer volume of transactions is in and out is costing the operator. And then, like you say, they don't know what's happening to it, because if it just comes straight out to my bank account, one, I'm more likely to spend it somewhere else. I'm going to go out for dinner and buy my shoes or whatever. But two, we can't, the operator has no idea where that money is being spent. Whereas, like you say, we can say 60% went back in, 20% went to a different operator, 20% went to the bank. It becomes a much more powerful piece.
And the behavior of what I do with the payout and how often do I then put it back out? And are there different reasons why I take a higher percentage out to my bank or to put back in? I mean, the core thing, you're right about the fact we've been around 20 years, but I have to say this sentence comes from a colleague of mine who she knows that I love the fact she did it, but I wanted to do this. I wanted to imagine a payments company that does something differently. And that was the heart of what we wanted to try and do here with the Wager Wallet in the US. And you're right, the Wager Wallet's going to go beyond the US, but the US gets it first. But we imagined a payments company that did something differently, and now we've built it.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the building. We've got more to do, and we've got lots more to learn together, and we'll really encourage people to help us learn even further. And we've got some great people we work with that can do that with us. But that's what we did. If you can imagine it to do that, something that's part of this industry and not just be a payments company, and then build it and then launch it and learn from it.
I don't know if you've just frozen for me or.
Okay, you've frozen for me too.
Okay, you're back. That one horrified moment. What do we do now?
Well, I was probably on a pedestal going on about getting the rest of the payments companies to come to the table, which I do a lot.
But
I
I'm conscious of time, but I want to switch back to that kind of player experience and what we took from the research, because and they told us that budgeting was really important, and you touched on it a couple of minutes ago. We talk about where we're setting a budget. It's not just a budget for one operator, it's across their entire sports betting spend, and that really plays directly into RG, responsible gaming, because as we know, right now I have to set it with each individual operator. And I think what we've done very well is to put the tools or give the player control, put the player in control, but in a way that is seamless and meaningful within the playing experience.
And then there's the dashboard. I see many dashboards all over the place of there's this and there's that. I've seen I think the best one I saw, I think, was that, I can't remember which, I'm not going to name the operator. There's one operator that brought out a dashboard that had a meaningful insight. And I found that absolutely amazing. And our dashboard in the wallet helps the player see the size of a P&L. It's a profit and loss. This is how much I'm putting in. This is how much I'm getting back. Where is my running? And I know, so you've got that out of your focus group conversations as well as the actual data analysis. So the dashboard isn't just, oh, here you go, here's a pretty pie chart or a bar chart. It's about meaningful pieces for the player.
Tracking spend against a budget.
Behavior, which is data that we can, in an aggregated way, share with the operator as well.
Yeah, having the ability to easily track my spend against my budget.
Yeah,
and also importantly, I mean, we spoke to our friends that are active in the RG space, and we asked them directly. It's like, okay, we're giving the player the ability to set a limit and set a budget. Do we also give them the ability to change that? And the response was resoundingly no. Right, we have to go with we're taking them at that first. They made a decision for a reason. And so if I set my budget for $1,000 for the month of June, then it's set for the month of June. And, obviously they can go and use other payment methods, but be able to put that control right at the start of that wager experience. And I always say this, but, my decision to place a bet or to wager is made when I make a payment into the operator. And so the tools that we can provide that support RG and support budgeting in in a sensitive way and in a collaborative way with the player, I think is really important.
You know, you touched on it there, is it's also about language. I mean, safer gambling, responsible gambling, looking after being for your P&L and wanting to have a sustainability, all these words that we're all hearing in all places. The language for the player is probably the most important thing about this is what you can do. And this is, it's not soft language. And you're right about if you're going to set a limit, you set the limit.
Mm-hmm.
No point doing this unless you're going to really commit to it. But there are different things you can do. But the language has to be right. And I don't sit here and say I've learned that over the last 20 years in the industry at all. I've learned that in recent years in the US, talking to operators, talking to regulators, talking to people in the industry who are absolutely passionate about it's how we talk to them and let them be responsible for themselves.
Yeah.
I think
And I
that's
think
really,
also
that's vital. Go on.
where the tools are, and that it has to be intuitive. That was one of the resounding things that I took from the research, is that I'm not using the tool. I'm not going onto the site and using the the right hand nav to navigate my way to tools. What they liked was the intuitive messaging that came up. Have I spent too long on the app, or how much time you spent on the app? So having that presented in a way that feels like it's part of that experience. Players are far more open to that and welcome that, rather than having to go off and outside of that wagering process to set a limit.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, people talk to us not just in a webinar, but live when we're out and about, and it's the passion. This has been a while bringing together, but even we're quite excited because we imagined something and now it's there and ready to go.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see how that works and learn again and keep going. But doing that in a live environment with the players and of course with the operators and the regulators, right? The influence that the regulators, I've never been in a country where a regulator puts their hand up and wants to talk to you. And that's a different place for me in the US. And I think that's a big thing. So bringing this to life now is an exciting thing to do. I don't have any questions being put at us from the audience. So no.
I don't either. I mean, it's also remarkable that we've managed to keep each other on time, and that we are at the 30-minute mark. So proud of us.
And neither of us have diverted off into it. I did talk about the soccer, but that was about it. And learning different words that don't work.
Yeah.
But if there is anybody got any questions just for anything just now, please ask, but they can ask later as well.
Yeah, obviously they can play this back in slow-mo online later.
Yeah.
And we will be sending out I was sending a link with the redacted data and all the information from this research. Right. And we'll still be talking to it and referring to it. We're working closely with the Betting Hero guys. I'm sure that we will do further research as we launch. Help us with onboarding info. I think that's the key thing really, is that the listening is a really important part of what we do.
The listening is very important, of a player and an operator and a regulator. And we're not just submissive and do stuff. We've got our own opinions and try to bring it together. But I'm really pleased that we're ready to do this now. I'm so looking forward to it. And I can't wait to start looking at the data to see if we're going to get any more surprises with the behavior stuff. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
I am excited by it.
I'm too, and I will thank you for your support in helping us get this built and getting launched.
Very humbly said. I like that. Yeah.
Thank you everybody again for joining us. I hope this has been interesting. If you have any questions, you know where to find us. Do reach out, and we'll share the data and the information. And
a lot of detail behind what we've just been chit-chatting about. So yeah, please do.
Yeah. All right.
Great.
I'll end it here. Thank you.
Okay.
Is it just us now?
Okay, it's here, I think.
I'm going to call you on Teams just in case.
So there's 18 there.